Lifestyle wise, are there any big differences between indie ball and minor league ball?
Yeah. I mean, we definitely like from like a housing standpoint, like we had host families. My first year, I didn't have a host family. We lived on like a college campus in the dorms. So it was a couple guys, like three guys to a dorm setup, kind of like a suite setup. And then my second year, when I went back, I had a host family for the first half. And so yeah, it's like you don't get paid a ton of money. You're kind of just playing the game for the love of the game more than anything. Trying to play, for the exposure. It was a cool league for me too, because like I said, it was close to home in New York. There was three teams in New York, New Jersey, and then three teams up in Canada. So your road trips, you kind of knew where you were going in Canada. You kind of got to explore different places, but I think overall it's very similar in different aspects. Obviously we still had a bus going to Canada, but the New York, New Jersey games were all like meeting trips. So, we'd throw a couple guys in the car and you'd talk for most of the game and then you'd drive back after. So that was a little bit different.
Justin, could you relive the breakthrough moment you had in 2019? You've talked about it on a couple podcasts before, but in case some of our listeners haven't heard how you kind of got back in front of the eyes of the Rangers and then eventually the Brewers and eventually the Mariners as well with a bullpen against a bunch of Ivy Leaguers who just so happened to crash your workout on a given Friday in 2019. Could you go back through that for us?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, so it was, the off season between 18 and 19. I was a minor league free agent again, so I kind of didn't have a great year in 2018. So I knew I wasn't really going to re-sign with the Rangers. I was just hoping I could get a couple workouts and kind of see what happens, maybe sign on the team. If not, I think I probably would have retired. But at the time, it was me and one other guy, Tim Ponto. We were working out at the gym, and like I mentioned earlier, I worked with the same pitching guy for years, George Zirkle. So it was the three of us. We would show up to the gym. We would turn on like three lights in the entire place. So it was just like a dungeon in there. And we would play catch every day. And we'd work out and throw bullpens. Our bullpen schedule is usually Tuesdays, Fridays. And this just happened to be a Friday. And this was I would say almost a month after all the other pro guys had left for spring training. So it was just three of us going in, and just happened to be Harvard was there playing University of Penn that weekend. They were in town, and game got rained out, so they were using the facility just kind of as an indoor workout type thing. And George, the pitching guy, went up to the head coach, was like, "Hey, you have any guys that maybe want at bats? Like we have two pro guys that are looking to throw in front of teams. They haven't faced hitters recently. We're just trying to get them, a couple hitters." And thankfully, that guy obliged and threw a couple guys in there, and we did some lives, and it was pretty eye opening because I had thrown relatively hard in my career. Occasionally getting up 95, 96, 97. For some reason, everything clicked kind of this day, and go out there first, I guess, quote unquote, first inning of this live, and I was like 97 to 100. And then I go out there for a second and kind of same thing, and touching 100 on the gun. So it was kind of a weird like transition. It was like, okay, like I thought nothing was going to happen, and now like we put together this compilation video and kind of threw it up on Twitter, and next thing you know, it was retweeted, however many times. I have to go back and see what the numbers are now, but retweeted and liked and shared. And this was kind of right when the whole like pitching ninja, I forget the other account. There was another account, but it was right around the time that those accounts were coming up. So it was like, oh, you tag them and they would retweet it, and you're just trying to get eyes on the video essentially. And it's funny. I've now heard like the other side of the story. Like I've obviously lived that side of hearing from the Brewers and being like, okay, like we're ready to move forward. Like I said, that video, that live BP happened on a Friday. We posted it that night. By Saturday afternoon, the Brewers called and was like, "Hey, we're ready to make a move." And then I was on a flight Monday morning out to Arizona. So everything happened very quickly. And it's funny now, like I've heard the other side of it from actually Pat Murphy, the now manager of Milwaukee. He one spring 2021, he get into camp, got there like a week early, and we're on the backfields just playing catch it one day, and he walks by and starts calling me Chips. I'm like, why the heck is he calling me Chips? And he's like, oh, chips this, chips that. And I'm like, what's the story behind the chips? And after a couple of days, finally, like, I think it was Brandon Woodruff was like, hey, why are you calling Topa Chips? And he's like, all right, like, we signed Topa off of this Twitter video, this like little compilation video. And I guess his story is that Matt Arnold, the GM for the Brewers, was just flipping through Twitter one night, like laying in bed, eating a bag of chips, and came across the video, and then like forwarded it to somebody in pro scouting, and the next thing you know, I signed like a couple days later. So it's calling me Chips because of that. So it's cool. It's cool now to like I said, I had seeing like or knowing both sides of the story. Like, you know, that was just happened to be scrolling through Twitter, seeing a video, and then obviously on the other side, I was going into the facility for just another Friday workout, and it just turned into something more.
Have you ever asked Matt Arnold about the story or just Murphy?
No, it's funny. So that spring, that was my first big league camp. I debuted in 2020 during COVID, and then so that was my first big league camp, and they called me up to the front in front of everybody. I kind of did a little Q&A type thing, and Counts asked me, he's like, hey, what's the story? So I was like, Murph tells it better, and that it got approval from Matt. So I've never personally asked him, but in that little Q&A, he said that sounded about pretty similar to the actual story.
Have you ever gotten around to thanking Rob at Pitching Ninja for the retweet and the exposure?
I have like a little bit. I've never like talked to him in person, just kind of like through different retweets. We talked about that, you know, that strikeout, my first strikeout there, the one that hit off of Willie Cashman's foot. I think he posted the video and then kind of like a little bit of the background of the story. Like, we retweeted one of his things that got signed, and now the culmination of getting to the big leagues. So I think just exchanged a couple of tweets there, but it would be cool to catch up eventually and talk to him.
I'm just picturing Arnold like sitting in bed, like you said, like actually eating chips, scrolling on Twitter like the rest of the world does. And then a video pops across his feed, and all of a sudden his eyes like pop open. It's like, well, this guy has pretty good stuff. I better stop what I'm doing. I better send this to somebody before somebody else grabs them. So that's
it was cool. And I had also thrown for a couple teams earlier in that off season, and the Brewers were one of them. They had sent out one of their, I guess, local I don't know if he was cross checker or area scouts. Just to come see me throw. So there was a little bit of a background there. I had talked to a couple of people in the front office. Nothing really progressed at the time. I was like, okay, like we have your stuff, like keep us updated. So I was emailing them, I would say maybe weekly or bi-weekly with different, you know, TrackMan, Rapsodo, metrics, stuff like that, and kind of where I'm at from a volume standpoint. And so there was a little bit of communication, but then when that video went out, I actually put it on Twitter first, and then I didn't send it to them right away. I think I maybe sent it the next morning or something like that, and that's when they're like, okay, yeah, we're ready to move forward now. So it happened pretty quick.